We're going to take a look at using the Darkroom editor to edit your print templates and your booth templates. We're starting out here on the Settings tab in the main settings area. You can see we have our template preview window here. We're going to come up here to choose. It's going to take us to the template selection screen. And these are the built-in templates with Darkroom. And what we're going to do is we're going to start with a fairly simple one down here, the Wedding Dark. So I want to edit this for an event, so I'm going to click on it to highlight it, so it's highlighted in green. And I'm going to come up here to the top. I'm going to click Edit. And this brings us into the template editor. Now this is the visual editor. And essentially how this works is it's made by putting together layers. Each one of these items over here on the right side are individual components that are part of the template. So we have our graphic, which is the background that we can see here with a little bit of a design. That is actually an image that is placed over the canvas. On top of that, we have our photo placeholders. And in this case, you'll notice it says photo composite. That means if I adjust this, all of the picture placeholders are going to adjust equally. Right? Now, there's two ways of doing this. Some of these have individual photo placeholders in which it'll say photo and then say photo 1, say photo 2, and so on, 3, 4. In this case, we have the composite. Below that, we have our text, which is the name of the people in the event, Clark and Gina. And then we also have individual text for the date. We're going to talk about what this says here, this percent, long date percent, in just a little bit. So to understand the layout of the editor, along the bottom here, we have some options that we can choose to work with. We have edit template, edit item, add photo, and this is if we were using individual placeholders. We add them one at a time. Add photos will produce a composite like this. We have add text. Add artwork. This is what you would use if you wanted to add a logo. We could add shapes, various effects like black and white, sepia tone, lines, barcodes, and the latest is we can add a space for a signature. We're not going to get into that just yet. We're going to do some just basic stuff. So when you open up a template, what you're going to want to do is get used to working with the items over here on the right side. Because these things are layered, sometimes these layers can overlap. I'm going to show you this. You see how it hides things behind it. But if we didn't know that this had been changed, we wouldn't know that there is a photo number 4 here. And if we wanted to get to photo number 4 to see if it's around, if we try to click, we're going to get, we can't quite get Clark and Gina. We're not sure where to click unless we click around. Let's bring this back down. So by using the list over here, as you select something, you can see that it highlights with the dotted outline for editing. With the exception of the graphic. The graphic is extended to go past the edges here. So you won't see the editing outline, so that way there's no white space when it prints. So what we want to do is we want to edit the text for our event. So I'm just going to double click on this and it brings up our text object editor. This is a very simple text editor. So let's say it's Tom and Mary. They're the ones getting married. Now, you can change the font, depending what fonts are installed on your PC, which are standard Windows fonts. You've got quite a few to choose from. You can scroll down through here and find something that looks a little more like what you want to go for. I'm going to just choose Comic, simply so we can see the difference. We can change things like the text color, clicking on this box here, and say I want to make that yellow. I want it to stand out. Say OK. Things like text opacity, do we want it to look faded? The background color, we basically leave that as it is so that it doesn't clash with anything on the template. And then you have a bunch of other options here that as you learn to use the editor more and get more comfortable with it, you can start exploring these other options down here. So I have Tom and Mary. I have it yellow. I'm going to make it just a little bigger so we can see a tiny difference. And then I'm going to click OK and see what it looks like. So it's a little close to the edge. I wouldn't normally want it that close, but just so you can see what it looks like when you change the size. So if I don't like it, I'm going to come back up here. Click Tom and Mary. I'm going to go ahead and put it back down to 20. And I'm going to hit OK. And there you go. It's that simple to edit the text. Now, I also want the date on here, and this is the date that I'm making this, April 27th. This right here, this text line, so when I double click on this, it's very tiny in here, but it's percent long date percent. That is a system script command telling this text box to pull the system date from the computer. This is handy, but I don't recommend using this because every time you activate this template, so if it's 2 weeks later and you try to make more prints for your customer, it will put the date that you're making those prints on the strip. So it's always best to just type in the date that the event is going to take place. So let's just go ahead and say this is a May 1st, 2017 event. Click OK. There it is. Now, don't like that font. So, of course, I'm going to come up here. And if I want it to match, of course, I'm going to go look for my comic font. Click OK. And there it is. Not a huge difference for such small print. And that's essentially all there is to editing a template. Now, if somebody had a logo or an image, in this case, is it's a wedding, say they had an image of wedding rings that they wanted to have put on here. You would download that image to your computer. And what you would do is you would come down and you hit Add Artwork. And we're going to just come up here to Browse. I don't have such image. So we're just going to see what we can look around here. Usually they end up in the Downloads folder. And again, I don't have any images in here that I would use. But you would just simply select it, hit Open, cancel. It would show up here in the path, and you say OK, and it will place it right in the middle of the template, so you can drag it and resize it as needed. Now, to simulate that, it's the same thing with the shape. So let's say I was browsing for a diamond graphic. And you know what? Let's change that color. We can see it. Make it nice and bright green. All right. So this would be the image that I imported. It would be the same principle. I'm going to go ahead and resize this. And I'm going to put it right here. Now, because this is layer-based, everything you add is instantly on the top layer. And this isn't going to work as it is because it's covering everything. So right here, I can see, all right, this is like an upside down stack of pancakes. This is the top pancake. This is the very bottom of the pile. So I need to move this behind the text so it goes over that diamond shape. So I can do it one of two ways. I can click and drag this right on top of Tom and Mary, and now you'll notice it's behind the text. Sometimes it's a little difficult to do that when there's a lot of things here. So what you can do is with this highlighted, you can come up here to Order and Send Backward. So that sent it backward one space. I'm just going to go ahead and do it again. And now it's behind the text. And I can see up here, yep, there it is. And sitting on top of that is my text object. That's essentially it for editing a template. Now, the important part of all of this is when it comes time to save, do not hit the Save button. I say this repeatedly. Use Save As. By hitting Save As, you can rename a copy. So this is going to be Tom and Mary. I'm going to name it my event so I can find it. Save there. And what we have now is you can see what's selected is a copy of the original. There's my original Wedding Dark. and here's the copy. So I can hit choose on that. We'll get back to that in a minute. And there it is. All right. Now, that message that popped up, it was checking how many photos per session. We were set to 3. What we want to do is make sure that this says 4. Now, sometimes it will catch that, as you saw, it popped up that message because it identified 4 photo placeholders, and I had this originally set to 3. It made the switch for me. Sometimes it won't catch that. So every time you do a template, make sure the numbers that are showing here, in this case up to 4, we want to make sure that we're taking 4 photos to fill those. All right. Now, editing a booth screen is the same principle. So we go to our Screens tab, come up here to hit Choose. Now, in this case, that particular template has a matching booth screen, so that's perfect right here. So I'm going to hit Dark Theme Wide, and I'm going to come up here to Edit. And this is the same principle. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to change this text here. So I'm going to look for my text that says, "Congratulations, Clark and Gina." And I'm just going to put Tom and Mary wedding 2017. Make it simple right now. Now notice how the font changed. The font that this was created with does not exist on this particular computer. So this was created in Darkroom at the company on a computer that had that particular font that we started with. So because it's not on here, Windows will try to find one that's close. I don't think that's close. So I'm going to scroll through and look for something moderately attractive. Give it a little bit more character. And then there we go. All right. Now, I also have some space here at the bottom. If I wanted to, I could add text by simply clicking Add Text and say I'm going to put in the date. You can put anything you want in here, obviously. And it puts it right in the middle. So I'm going to click and drag it down here. There we go. All right. And that's really all you want to do. Now, the rest of these things that we see on here, these are layers that make the template work. The live view this is where they will see themselves from the camera, so they can position themselves. The percent text percent is where the booth messages will appear. And of course, then we have our countdown. So it's best not to mess with these. You can move them if you don't want the countdown right there. You can move it off to the side if you want. You could even make it a little smaller. It's really up to you. And again, when I'm done editing, I want to add artwork, say those rings. I could put an image of rings up here or down here. I'm going to use Save As, and I'm going to give it the event name. Save. And I'm going to go look for my copy, which is right there. Make sure that's selected and hit Choose. And there we go. And that's all there is to working with template editing in Darkroom.